When the topic of our most favorite PlayStation eras or memories are brought into a conversation, more than likely somebody will bring up the PlayStation 2. And for good reason. It has so many games on that console, so many different features that revolutionize games, and there's a good reason why it is, for now, the best-selling console of all time. But the more I think about it, for as much as I really love the titles that I was introduced to with the PlayStation 2, I think the one that gave me the most impact was the PlayStation 3. This tank of a unit right here, this is heavy. This is unfortunately not the $599 version. This is the PS3 Slim, and so I don't have backwards compatibility with the PS2, which is really a shame. I was really looking for that version and that model out there, but I couldn't find it, so I had to take what I could. This is heavy. Oh my gosh, I'm putting this down. They call you slim, but you're still a thick boy to me. Anyway, it's kind of crazy how many things that we take for granted on our console these days, from online connectivity, being able to connect to social media, sharing, connecting with friends. A lot of that just didn't really exist with the PS2. The leap from the PS2 to the PS3 is the most significant jump from one console to the next, and really modernized a lot of things that we have just as staples in our consoles these days. We pretty much took the PSP and supercharged its features for home console use with the PS3, including things like internet connectivity and the good old crossbar menu. It is so weird to come back to the user interface of the PS3 after all this time, but yeah, this is the console where I was introduced to a lot of different titles on the PlayStation platform, and not just limited to the PS3. I remember this is where I first started to play Okami HD. This is the first time I was introduced to Okami. Games like Fez, which is that like mind-bending perspective puzzle platforming game. Mirror's Edge, which is very striking visually. First-person parkour game, I guess is the best way I can really describe it. Bioshock, this is where I was introduced to the Bioshock series. Journey was a fantastic little experience. It was really something that resonated with a lot of people. A very personal journey, for a lack of better words. The atmosphere of this game is sublime, and I recommend anybody who's able to still play this to give it a shot. I was introduced to older titles like Beyond Good and Evil HD, which is definitely the only Beyond Good and Evil game that's ever going to release. Limbo is a wonderful title, also very atmospheric, very spooky. As someone with a bit of arachnophobia, there's that part of this game which I could not get through without some help, but I still think it holds up very well even today. Wipeout HD Fury, which was pretty much there as our stand-in for the F-Zero series. It was there to scratch that itch that we all had for those arcadey racer style of games, and I really wish there was more of these titles out there as well. Space Invaders Infinity Gene, I really wish that a lot more people would play this. I was very much invested in this, more so than I expected I would be. It's very much starts off as Space Invaders, but becomes a very cool reimagining of the retro shoot 'em up. And I give this one a shot. Fully give this one a shot if you're able to. Pac-Man Championship Edition DX. I spent so much time with this. I love the vibe, the music. I'm very much a major Pac-Man guy, and this is one of those titles that really reimagine it in one of the right ways. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix. It doesn't even fit on the entire line there. I was able to really get into more fighting games with friends, but this is one of those titles in which I was really introducing myself to more 2D traditional fighters that I was still not very good at, but had a lot of fun playing and getting introduced to. The system also had a really decent amount of retro titles to download from PS2 and the PS1. Katamari Damacy was a very near and dear title to me, so this is how I was able to play it when I simply could not find it for the PS2 back in the day. And this is really how I was introduced to the main three Final Fantasies that were out on the PlayStation 1. Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and 9. I have the physical disc for 8, but like the third disc would not read past a certain cutscene, so I had to pretty much just toss that, and I played the entire game all over from scratch here on the PS3. But yeah, I have all three of these here. 8 and 9, definitely not talked about enough as much as 7. Of course, 7 is the classic one, but yeah. And I also was introduced to the very first Metal Gear Solid here. With the PS2, I was introduced to the Twin Snakes and Snake Eater. And of course, with the PS3, I also played Metal Gear Solid 4, but I knew I had to get into the one that started it all, and this is the one that was able to make that happen. I was introduced to a lot of games with the PS3, and it's so funny to think back how deeply ingrained some of the staples of PlayStation are here now, like the PlayStation Network. It all started here with this console that is still going on today. We were able to check like trophies. Trophies became a thing, achievements and whatnot for PlayStation here. I still have my friends list here. Oh my gosh. Well, this is pretty much all my friends from the PlayStation 5 at this point, but oh. Virgin Wolf has still not responded to my friend request. It's not too late. I am waiting. The integration of PSN and the PlayStation Store is just so much part of the identity of PlayStation, and oh my god, it's taking a very long time to load this up. It was kind of a problem back then. It will load eventually. There are still a lot of titles that you can download today, some which I fear will just not be available at some point or another. We've already seen some games get delisted from the PlayStation Network store. Earlier this year, I had mentioned that happened to Tales of series, and it can just happen without a warning. So if there's something that you really want to play that only is available on the PS3 and is still on the PlayStation's Network store, I would highly recommend doing so before it's too late. Wow, do you remember PlayStation Home, that weird like social network thing that tried to take off, but I think flopped really early? Can I even enter it at this point? I doubt I can. I think I dabbled with it a total of 2 times, and then I never touched it ever again. Aw, no. Thank you for showing interest in PlayStation Home, but unfortunately it is now closed. We'd like to thank each and every one of the 41 million people from around the world who helped make PS Home what it was, and we hope that you've enjoyed the ride as much as we have. Wow, there is quite the eclectic cast of characters here, from Pickleman that doesn't want to be here, Not Cactuar, and a Dancing Lobster. I watch an absurd amount of video services like Netflix and YouTube and Crunchyroll or Funimation back then because it was just easier and I wanted to see it on the television. That was probably my most used feature that wasn't games, but there's also like movies that you can import on here. We have so many Studio Ghibli films on here, it's kind of silly. I forgot how much music I put on here so I could listen to it in certain other games that allowed the feature. You could put this crazy looking, where is it? Hold on. Visual player. Oh yeah. That's the stuff right there. I also appreciate just how much freedom I was given in customizing my home menu with like custom themes, official themes, and being able to put a screenshot as the background. Became very spoiled about it, and I wanted to have it on all my consoles from here on out. And we have some really nice ones here like Sonic, Tales of, Uncharted, Valkyria Chronicles. Oh, the PlayStation 15th anniversary. Oh my gosh, how far we've come. How far oh my god, it's been a long time, hasn't it? I love how they have to also incorporate the rubber duck into this as well. It's just simply too iconic to not have it. I don't have the largest list of PlayStation 3 titles, but I sure got integrated into the ecosystem a lot more than I thought with this console. The first game I got, of course, probably not surprising, is Metal Gear Solid 4. I got introduced to this series with Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater and Twin Snakes on the PS2. I also got the original Metal Gear Solid for PSN as well on PS3. So I got all 4 games on here. And I love the instruction manual. Have you ever seen the instruction manual? It's like, it's all in its instructions, but it's in an original comic style with its own art form, and they're explaining the rules and everything of how the game works with controls and whatnot with this art style. It's really interesting, and that's why this thing is so thick. There's even like an old comic here from Metal Gear Online. I kind of miss old Snake, to be honest. A Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. A lot of these games that I have on here also aren't exclusive to PS3, but it's how I got introduced to them. I remember this was a Black Friday deal where you can get one game at regular price and get another one for $5, and so this was a $5 game, and so I returned the other one, so I ran away with it. The police on this box, they're still looking for me. This game was really well done. I really loved how this was made by the team that worked on Burnout, so Criterion Games. That did Burnout Revenge and some of the other ones, Burnout 3 on PS2, which I really love. Definitely invokes that same feel with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. I'm pretty sure I let my friend borrow the original and they never gave it back, but Little Big Planet, specifically the first one, I played a lot of the second one as well, but it was mostly the first one that I have a lot of core memories with. I remember waiting around with my friends. We were doing social studies and we were watching the presidential election of 2008, and at the same time my friend was waiting for the email from PlayStation Network to get an exclusive code for early access to Little Big Planet 1, and we were just obsessed with Little Big Planet. The creativity on display, being able to make pretty much exactly what you want, it really set up the series of games in which you can just create and build your own game within a game, and I think it's very special for that. Oh my gosh, there's so many here. BioShock Infinite, which also had the original BioShock on it as well. That's how I was introduced to the series in the first place. LA Noire was incredible, and it still kind of holds up. The faces look kind of jank compared to having, you know, claiming to have that facial recognition technology, but a really interesting look to the 1940s Los Angeles vibe as being a detective back then. So cool. Oh my gosh, I nudged my camera around. Catherine, the original Catherine, made by Atlas, of course, the team that also worked on Persona, and this is pretty much like the stepping stone for what Persona 5 would look like in the future. I had to hide this box from my whole family because I couldn't show them this box ever. And yeah, it's like a really interesting and weird puzzle game, but it's a lot scarier. So it's Pushmo, but it's more like Deathmo, basically. Yeah. I got hardcore into Valkyria Chronicles. This is such a well-made tactical game. Probably not even surprising from somebody who enjoys games like Fire Emblem, but this definitely has its own identity and holds up on its own as a different kind of tactical RPG. Definitely give this one a shot if you like that genre of game. This one and Valkyria Chronicles 4, which is like a game that kind of is in tandem with the story and happening at the same time. Very good titles. The PS3 is pretty much how I got introduced to things like Half-Life and Portal and a dabbling of Team Fortress 2 with the orange box. Portal was pretty much the highlight of this for me because I always really wanted to play that on here. And of course, that helped me get introduced to playing Portal 2, which is a fantastic game. One of the most well-written games I think I've ever played, even today. It is so funny and charming. Wheelie is still the best and worst boy ever. Uncharted 3, I have an interesting history with Uncharted 3 in particular. I think maybe like a couple of weeks before the game actually released, there was this kind of event that anyone can go to. You didn't have to be part of media or anything. You can go to an event in San Francisco and you got to play multiplayer in a competition. You were able to play the early access beforehand, so you kind of had some training going into it. And so when I was there on my team, we got like second place overall. And so they mailed this copy to me like 2 days early before the game actually came out. And as another prize, they handed out a dual pack of Uncharted 2 and 1. Uncharted 2 is still a fantastic game. This is like the blueprint for one of the most excellently paced games of all time, in my opinion. The others are still great as well, but this trilogy holds up so well on the PlayStation 3. I got the original Sonic Generations. I got Shadow Generations, and I pretty much only played that because I platinumed this game once. I don't need to do it again. I got so involved with 2D fighters in this era, I pretty much just wanted to keep up with my friends, and so BlazBlue Continuum Shift, the second game in the series, which means I was somewhat able to keep up with the nonsensical story, but I still got lost plenty along the way. I started with Guilty Gear Accent Core as far as Arc System Works games go on the PS2, and this is one that helped me get introduced to their style of games even more. And I was super excited when I found out they were doing another fighting game with one of my favorite series, Persona. And so Persona 4 Arena, also made by Arc System Works, pretty much just the exact kind of game that you'll be expecting from BlazBlue. Really kind of nonsensical story somewhat, but also really solid gameplay. And they would continue on to make a sequel to this as well, which I don't have here, unfortunately. I have so many JRPGs here. I'm just going to try and blaze through them really quick. Kingdom Hearts, of course. The 2.5 remix is the one that I was really waiting for, because this one has Birth by Sleep and Kingdom Hearts 2. Probably my two favorite games in the series. So glad to have that here. Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD Remaster. I feel like I'm cheating because none of these games are actually original to the PS3, so I'm going to move on from there. Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch was a very interesting title, made by Level 5, but also with the assistance of Studio Ghibli with animation and with music to help really invoke that feeling of playing a Ghibli movie. It is essentially a monster wrangling JRPG where you control a young boy who essentially gets isekai'd into a different world. Really opened my eyes to different kinds of JRPGs to try out on this console. Another one, for example, being Eternal Sonata is a very interesting JRPG. It follows the protagonist of this story, which is a telling of Frédéric Francois Chopin, the famous composer, who is on his deathbed and is having the most fantastical dream that he's ever had. And apparently, this dream is a bunch of anime characters in a very beautiful world. The music is done by Motoi Sakuraba, who has also worked on the Tales series, but it's probably one of his better works because everything is so symphonic and whimsical. There's pretty much nothing that really directly relates to Frédéric Francois Chopin's life except for certain interludes that has his music playing in the background. I don't know what the point was for having that be the basis of the story, but it does tell a very interesting and unique tale of this man who is just going and experiencing all these things on his deathbed. This is a very unique title, and they haven't really done anything else like this. This is the only game in its series. It's just pretty much a one-off, but I appreciate what it does with its free roam battling and turn-based combats. But yeah. Finally, surprising absolutely nobody, I'm here to talk about the Tales of series, because if you're a fan of the Tales of series, the PS3 is in fact the console to have. You have Tales of Graces F, which originally this was the only way to play Tales of Graces F. I'm so thankful that the remastered version is coming out very soon. The combat of this game is a hallmark of the series. People always talk about how well combat was achieved in this game. So I definitely would tell you to do that and play that game when it comes out. Beyond that is Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, which of course also isn't specifically for the PS3. But as time has gone on, I have discovered that this is probably the best way to play a HD version of Tales of Symphonia. This also comes with the sequel, Dawn of the New World, which of course probably isn't the best title in the series, but there is more value in having both of them in one collection and is also not a glitchy mess. But other ones that are specific to the PS3 are Tales of Xillia and Tales of Xillia 2. Probably some of my favorite titles beyond the ones that came out on the PS2. The Xillia duology is very good. I really enjoy these titles. Xillia 2 is probably my favorite, second favorite Tales of game, probably second or third. But unfortunately, some of these Tales of games have been getting delisted, like Tales of Xillia 2 is no longer available on the PlayStation Network at all. So I value this copy a lot more now than before. That's pretty much all the major staples of my personal PS3 library. I know there's a lot more out there, a lot of great staples for the PlayStation 3. It was there through a very pivotal point of my life, and I'm really glad that some of these titles were here with me during that time. So, happy 30th PlayStation. I really hope that the UI available for the PS5 right now isn't actually going to be temporary. I hope it stays on there because I think that's really cool. I love me a classic retro UI. I just took a closer look at the box for Sonic Generations and I realized that here it says it's 3D compatible. I forgot that that was a thing back in the PlayStation 3 era. Yeah, I'm sure that'll take off.